Joining me now is Illinois Congressman Krishnamoorthi, a Democrat on both the House Oversight and the House Intelligence Committees. The House Intelligence Committee was one of those committees who sent the subpoena to Deutsche Bank. And Congressman, I guess I'd just start with that. What's your reaction to the new allegations that are in the Times this morning?
It's very disturbing, and I think that your viewers may already know this, but Deutsche Bank has had a history of money laundering problems. In addition, as you mentioned, they loaned over $2.5 billion to Donald Trump when he couldn't get loans from any other institution, and he has $300 million in loans outstanding today. So when rank-and-file officials at Deutsche Bank spotted very questionable transactions between Trump or Jared Kushner entities and Russian entities and asked that those be reported to the federal government, and they weren't because of senior managers' decisions not to, that is absolutely something that we have to ask them about going forward.
So I guess that's one of the questions. And to be clear, just because their higher-level executives chose not to turn them over the SARS reports isn't necessarily anything wrong. It just means they didn't find something they thought was untoward. But what is the next step for the committee on the ongoing kind of subpoena battle that's out there?
Well, I think we have to fight the president's delaying tactics with regard to trying to prevent Deutsche Bank from turning over the records to us. To their credit, Deutsche Bank is actually cooperating with the investigation. I think that Chairman Schiff will have full support from folks like myself and others in trying to enforce our subpoena. But I think that just as we saw in the Oversight Committee's case with regard to the Mazars accounting firm and turning over financial records, I think the Trump administration has to realize that they may try to delay the turning over of these records, but the courts have something to say about this as well. In the Mazars situation, the court expedited the process by which those records might eventually be turned over to Congress. Similarly, I hope the same occurs here with regard to the Deutsche Bank records.
Can I just ask, Congressman, you mentioned Russia. Have you seen something on the committees that would imply that, or that would tell you that this was Russia? Are you going off the public reporting that we've seen so far? What's kind of your sense of that?
Are you talking about with regard to the New York Times story?
Yes, sir.
Yes, that is what the rank-and-file officials said that they saw, which was questionable links or financial transactions between, for instance, Jared Kushner and Russian entities. And in fact, one of those examiners, one of those rank-and-file officials was actually terminated, and people perceived the reason why she was terminated was because of her complaints about these particular transactions.
I want to shift gears a little bit, but kind of on the same broad topic, and that is a colleague of yours in the Republican conference, Justin Amash, under fire today from members of his own party for saying he believes the president, quote, engaged in impeachable conduct. What was your reaction maybe when you flipped open Twitter yesterday and A, saw those comments, and then B, saw the backlash from some of his own colleagues?
Well, it's obviously very good to see people who are taking an independent-minded approach among Republicans with regard to the report. I was absolutely disturbed by the president's comments about Justin Amash. I don't think that anybody deserves those types of comments, including Mr. Amash. I think at this point, I'm hopeful that there are more people on the other side of the aisle who take a close look at the report and join us on at least one issue that is immediately before us, which is, do we have oversight of the executive branch? I think the answer is absolutely yes. The American people have every right to hold their president accountable, and I hope that more of my friends on the other side of the aisle join us in enforcing our subpoenas and conducting our investigative functions as Congress.
Does it unsettle you at all that a Republican congressman seems to be going further in terms of pursuing impeachment than the Democratic caucus and its leadership has agreed to go at this point?
No, I think each and every person has to come to his or her own independent decision on this particular issue. Like I said, I think we're unified with regard to one issue which is staring us in the face right now, which is, do we have checks and balances on this president? I think the answer is yes. Everyone wants to enforce those checks and balances and make sure that we don't end up with a king. We have a president, and he is held accountable by Congress.
One of the things the congressman brought up that I thought was interesting, whether it's legislation or whether it's the report, is that he believes that most members haven't actually read the Mueller report, which kind of begs the question, have you read the Mueller report?
I've read much of it, some parts more than others, and I'm still reading it. I'm rereading sections because it's so dense, and the appendices and so forth are important for our work on the Intelligence and Oversight Committees. But I absolutely think every American should take a look at the Mueller report, at least look at the executive summaries, because they are illuminating.
All right, Congressman, I will be back on the Hill in a couple of hours. I will say hello. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.